Protests and violence erupted in mid-April over a proposal by the Nicaraguan government to cut the country's pension system. President Daniel Ortega canceled that plan, but the deadly confrontations between the government and pro-Ortega forces and opposition groups have continued. The U.S. has accused Ortega of waging state-sponsored violence against anti-government protesters who wanted him out. Catholic Church and private sector's leaders have repeatedly tried to mediate an end to the conflict, but those efforts have failed. Now the U.S. says Ortega is targeting the church and its leaders.
In Nicaragua, the government of Daniel Ortega is virtually waging war on the Catholic Church. For months, Nicaragua's bishops have sought to broker a national dialogue following pro-democracy protests that swept through the country earlier this year. But government-backed mobs armed with machetes and even heavy weapons have attacked parishes and church properties.
Raúl Zamore leads the Jesus of the Divine Mercy Church parish in Managua. On July 13, students who had been protesting peacefully at a university took refuge inside his church. He recalled how paramilitary forces opened fire on them.
Two died from gunshots to their head. That hurt me very much. I tended to one of them before he died.
A recent report by the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights charges the Nicaraguan government has perpetrated various forms of violence against its people. At least 350 people have died in the protests. The Nicaraguan ambassador to the Organizations of American States, Denis Moncada, told VOA he mourns the deaths, but he declined to discuss the toll.
I prefer not to give the information that you request because it's information that is very difficult to provide.
When the U.S. Congress passed a resolution condemning Nicaragua's repression of peaceful protesters, Ortega lashed back.
We see these congressmen, how these senators clearly view Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua.
Republican Congresswoman Illeana Ros-Lehtinen.
We've seen that with governments like Iran, like North Korea, like Cuba, like Venezuela, and now we're very sorry to put Nicaragua on that list of countries that are killing their own citizens, simply because the leader wants to keep himself in power.
Ortega has denied U.S. allegations against his government. Pence cautioned the world is watching and accused the Nicaragua government of putting out propaganda he said fools no one and changes nothing. Cristina Caicedo Smith, VOA News, Washington.